I wanted to kick things off with a little bit of an introduction to competitive anxiety because in 1970 there was a landmark study that was done by Rainer Martins, and I do believe that he was connected with the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, which is a very top-notch physical education research school, maybe the flagship school for that type of study in the United States. So, in that study, he broke down for the first time that there's a difference between your cognitive anxiety and your somatic anxiety. And so cognitive being, that which is of the mind, your thinking, and your somatic being, the physical manifestations of nervousness like sweaty palms, shaky hands, butterflies in your stomach, sweating, things like that. And so he broke those out for the first time. No one had really understood that there are different effects that come with each of those. And part of what made me very interested in studying all of that was that I had been choking a lot of matches. I'd be, been ahead in matches and found a way to lose, or was coming from behind and was on the cusp of being able to take a lead, and then again I would choke and feel these really intense feelings of nervousness that would impede my performance. So I became very interested in it for myself, and then as a result of that, having studied this and learned how to teach it, it's been very helpful for my students.
Cognitive versus somatic. Do they ever, I guess, overlap and affect each other?
Yes, and that's what makes it tricky. That's a great question, because that's what makes it tricky and made it hard for people to separate the two. And so the fact that they overlap, one can affect the other, is one of the all-time controversial questions in psychology or even philosophy, right? What comes first, physical changes in the body or emotions and thoughts? Well, another one is, where is your mind, right? Where does your mind exist? It's, you can't really find a place in your physical body for where your mind exists. There's no, I mean, it's, I guess you could say it's in your brain, but where exactly? So, there's some deeply philosophical stuff that goes into that, but suffice it to say that the research found that the more confident you are, meaning in your thinking, and the less worried you are, again, in your thinking, then the better your performance will generally be. And then as your feelings of somatic anxiety reach a midpoint, then generally that's where the best performances are going to be. So, you can't go into a match, 100% relaxed, because then you're not going to have the tension that you need in order to be able to hit a shot. But then on the other hand, if you're totally tight and completely rigid, then you're not going to be very efficient moving around the court or hitting your shots. So there's this midpoint, and there's a lot of variability in that arc. So I think everybody needs to find their best place.
Like, what type of things, I guess, would affect whether it's cognitive or somatic? As I was thinking of one potential thing, let me know if I'm wrong, thinking down the wrong track or not. Does physical tiredness or mental tiredness come first? Is that kind of related, or is that different?
There's a quote by Winston Churchill that I like, and he said, "Fatigue makes cowards of us all." And I think there's a lot of wisdom in that. So this is, I think it's a great question because it also underlines the connectedness between the two. So yes, of course, they interact. Um, one thing that I do with my athletes is as we're conditioning, I tell them that, once we get done with this, one of the benefits of being very well conditioned to play is that you can foster feelings of that you deserve to win. So you get into that deep third set and things, it's hot and you're sweating and you feel exhausted and it's a close match and you're wondering, do I really deserve this? And you can reflect back on those tough training sessions that you put in and the fact that that you've done all that you could physically to train, to perform. And then you can reassure yourself and say, yes, indeed, I've done the work. I do deserve to win the match today. And then I also sell it with my players this way, is that there might be a team or there might be players out there that work an equal amount as us or who work as intelligently as we do, but there won't be a group or people who are more intelligent. And generally what we're going to be facing are people who are undertrained. So you'll know that if you're feeling bad on the day because you're tired or exhausted, then the other player is feeling just as bad and maybe worse. So that can empower you to really power through and continue on until the end, until they finally drop.
Yeah, because in the end, like tennis is like a combat sport, so a lot of what the opponents are feeling affects you in the end result.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
I
that's
guess
good.
compared to swimming, like you just gotta pull out your best performance, and if you feel bad, that will affect you only.
Right. But, yeah, the mental aspects of a sort of a pure performance sport, I think are very different, especially in like
Yeah,
a racing in a sprint. Um, all of the mentality of the race is done before the race. And so, it's just a matter of whether somebody can psych you out at the beginning of the race or whether how much self